we pause to, first of all, honor those who have helped us to think better, to move from cloudy spaces mentally. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. And we want to make you aware of a genius, in my opinion, in this area of mental health and has done so much and has helped so many people. The interesting thing is, recently, while talking to my friend, and we were talking through different therapists in Chicago that are doing it big. Her name came up, and then while looking for some personal help of my own, her name came up, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is like such a great person. I've known her for some time, but I want the world to know, who does not know, Dr. Erin Alexander. So welcome, Dr. Erin Alexander. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you, Pastor Hall. Happy to be here with you today.
So, you typically people read these bios and they're like very, prescripted. But one of the things I pride myself in is making sure that people get a chance to feel the other person. So tell us about you, whatever you want us to know about you.
Well, so I am an African American woman who is also a psychologist, who also identifies as a Christian. And I bring all of myself to all of those spaces. And I think of myself in the space of a psychologist. I try to facilitate healing. And as a Black person, as a woman, I'm aware of the need, the urgent need to heal from, things that have happened to us historically, things that we're troubled with in our current times. And I try to bring that into the space between me and my clients. And so I'm a therapist. I also do coaching and consulting. I have administrative roles. So I operate in lots of different spaces professionally, but I bring myself into all those places.
Well, welcome to this moment. And so, when we speak of this idea of mental health, it has been a phenomenon, especially in the midst of this pandemic that we are facing. And so, my first question that I want to ask you is simply this: when we hear this phrase mental health, what does it look like to have a healthy mind?
When I think about that, I think about a person who has a healthy amount of awareness and insight, balance, perspective. And when I talk about insight, it is awareness about our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors and how they're impacting us. And to be able to distinguish between our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors. That's what helps us have a healthy, balanced mind. Because sometimes the things that we're thinking about may not be healthy, may not be balanced. It may be a message that someone told us about ourselves. That's just not true. And we need to be able to kind of separate out those feelings and behaviors, because those thoughts lead to feelings and they both drive behaviors. And if we want to facilitate change, we need to start at that place of how a person's thinking. How are you taking in the world? What messages are you carrying? What things are you communicating? What do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about other people? And so someone who has a balanced, healthy mind has been able to have insight and awareness in that space. And from that awareness, we know when we need support. We know how to get support. We know the type of support that we need. And so it's not about being perfect. It's not about always carrying around the best thoughts, always being happy and joyful. But it's knowing when you're not and knowing how to get back to that place.
Wow. So you have just, oh my goodness, you just gave some intense food for thought. It's the awareness. And so my question to you is, in the times that we're in, right? Like, we've seen a lot, we've faced a lot, we've dealt with a lot. And as I ask you this question, I want you to just, so many times you just man, got me thinking like, oh, that was so good. But when we come into these moments when we're not aware, right, or it's just the blues and we're down, what are some common things that we face in our minds and challenges in our minds? And what are those common things, and what's something that we can do in a practical way to get us back to this place of awareness, to begin to make the right choices and to live out behavior that's the best for us? What's something that's so common that we overlook, but it has the biggest effects on our lives mentally?
A common thing that we overlook is stress, right? And how much it's affecting us. Because some of us were born into stressful environments and we live in a stressful environment. and it seems like it's just kind of operating in the background, and we forget that it's there, and we forget all the ways that it affects us. Stress can speed you up and make you feel like you're rushing and you have to hurry up and you have 1,000 things you have to do and not enough time in your day. Stress can make us want to cope in unhealthy ways, drinking and eating and, physical things and shopping, and we cope and react to the stress, but not realizing that that's what's driving our behavior. It's interesting that we've been in this pandemic. One of the things that I talk to my clients about a lot is remember where we are. Remember that we are still in a pandemic, because you habituate to your stress, right? I think people have become accustomed to, like, this is just the way life is right now, but forget the ways that it's impacting us and causes stress and has changed every aspect of how we live our lives. And so I think stress is a big one. And again, to go back to awareness and insight, if I am aware that I'm facing an increased level of stress, if I'm aware that it's impacting the thoughts that I carry, how I feel, and what I do, then I'm in a better position to think about how I can take care of myself and how I can settle myself down, and how I can practice some self-care or find some peace, find some joy, dig into my self-care toolkit and use some of those things.
So before this is going to be a 2-week, we're going to cut this conversation up into 2 weeks. What's one practical way in which, when stress comes and it takes us to a place of unawareness, or we, as you just said, we cope, we do things just in the presence of stress, what's one way that we can step away and reset in the presence of stress?
Be quiet, be still. Cultivating stillness and quiet. You can give yourself 5 minutes of stillness and quiet, 10, 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes people think they need a whole lot of time to be able to do that. But, if you sit still and you start with a prayer to settle into a place of quiet and stillness, that can go a long way to helping you settle down. The other thing, so we talk about prayer, we talk about mindfulness activities, meditation. You can do that anywhere, anytime, and it's grounding and it is calming and it can bring about peace. And sometimes from that place of quiet and stillness, we get more clarity about what's going on, what's bothering us, and what we need. So that's thing number one to me. Yeah.
All right, y'all. So next week, we're going to just continue to share more and more of this conversation. But I appreciate y'all. Stay tuned as we continue to grow and go in God this Sunday morning. Again, thank you, Dr. Erin Alexander. And I can't wait till we share the other part of this interview next week. God bless y'all. Stay tuned for worship.